So my name's Kevin. I'm a creative director at an ad agency in Dallas, Texas, and I'll be reviewing your portfolio today. So I'll go through your portfolio. I am just one person, though. I always caveat with this in that I feel that it is best to show your portfolio to a bunch of people. The ultimate goal is to get as much feedback as possible so you can make the most best informed decisions for yourself. With that being said, this is your portfolio, right? This is a representation of you as an artist, and you should feel good about it. Really putting the work out there that you ultimately want to do, right? Definitely think about it from that perspective as well. If there is something you love just the way that it is, by all means, keep it that way. I will always stand by an artist standing by their creative. Okay, you should see your portfolio. And no shock here, the portfolio is a PDF. This is my one thing I'm going to tell you that is a non-negotiable, super mandatory. You need to make your portfolio a personal website. You can use Squarespace or Wix or all these other platforms to be able to do that, but it is very crucial for a number of reasons. Most reviewers won't even download a PDF anymore because we're told from our agencies and things to not download anything that we don't know what it is, right? Now, a link to our URL, a little bit more trustworthy, sometimes can be an issue as well. But that is what needs to happen. They need to be able to click a link, get to your portfolio, be able to share that link with people relatively quickly so they can peruse the portfolio. But it is far more than a security measure. The most important reason for doing that is that when you make a portfolio that's like this, a PDF, you are dictating the experience. You are telling me as a reviewer, hey, I know what you're looking for. You want to look at whatever I have on page 2 first, and then what I have on page 3 second, and then what I have on page 4. I would tell you this is the wrong way to think about it, right? Because people are coming to your portfolio with their own agency needs of what they're looking for out of a candidate, and you want them to be able to click on the projects that are most closely associated with their work and the things they're interested in. So ultimately, it's a choose your own adventure, right, for the reviewer. And that's really, 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 really important because if you're showing them a bunch of stuff they don't care about and they only have 2 to 3 minutes to look at it, they may never get to the things that really matter to them. And that is a huge lack of user experience, and you do not want that. So number 1, make a website. Number 2, and we'll get to it on your first page, you say, hey, I'm Tab. Here's a small little maybe sentence, 2 sentences about you. I don't want you to underestimate the power of the About You section. This is a place where we get to know the artist. We get to know the person that we're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis. Most of this stuff is already evident in your work. Graphic designer, check, you already applied. We know that already. You have a passion for sports design that is slightly unique, but then branding and editorial design, I enjoy using design to create a difference in people's lives. I will not tell you how many portfolio about sections say that. And that's the problem, right? You want to differentiate yourself. Use that about section to your advantage. Show your personality, show your quirks, show your point of view. Really dig into who you are and what you want to accomplish. You mentioned sports. You mentioned it in your video. You mentioned it in your question, and you've mentioned it here as well. Tell me more about that. Do you have a sports background? Like, where did this interest and love for the game come from? Like, give a little bit of that, and that may be something that reviewer remembers when they've reviewed 20 or 30 or 40 portfolios in a day, right? So that is why that is so important. It is another piece that can be, very memorable aside from the work itself. So don't underestimate it. Really, really important. As we go through, I did notice a lot of process stuff. So process can become a little bit of noise within your portfolio unless your process is extremely unique. You did something groundbreaking. You did something super interesting. If not, I would really think about each piece as, a part in a museum. You are ultimately showcasing the highlights. Again, that reviewer only has about 3 to 5 minutes on your portfolio, and you want to make sure that they get to those things they care about, but then can move on to the next thing and hopefully see a nice breadth of your work to really make a decision whether to bring you in for an interview or hand you over the keys to a job, right? So something to think about. What I will say is I see a lot of promise. I see a lot of design acumen and know-how, which is great, but love pages like this where you're showing how you would translate said branding that you're creating from poster to social and other types of tactics, right? I would actually implore you to even go further, to keep pushing those boundaries. Don't stop here. The best projects are those when someone clicks on a project section, it is really built out and thought out to really make a very 360-degree impact. For example, if there were events going on, what do events look like, right? Is there a social app that lets you know what's going on in the city, and how are you showcasing that? So really try to continue to push all these different avenues and different materials so that you can really show how this brand gets pulsed through all these different touch points. And that can be really important. The other thing I'll say is on both of these assets, I guess it doesn't matter as much on social because you've got the obviously the name of the account, but try to make sure that the name is coming through in your branding assignment. So for example, if I'm just walking by, I'm not going to know this is Adelaide. Is that correct? By just looking at these, I know that you've used the logo shape as a kind of holding shape for imagery and things of that nature, which is great. And maybe you're like, oh, that's a very recognizable symbol in this city, and so it's fine. I just didn't know it. But again, if in your part, everybody knows what this is, then by all means, forget what I said. But I would potentially add city name just so things are very, very clear. I would also just think about how that experience translates, right? Like you're communicating a couple stuff, kind of the breadth of the things that the city has to offer, but there's no actionable something for them to do from that signage. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe you're just trying to do an awareness play. But I'd be very specific in your project descriptions about what your thought process was there, because as much as beautiful design is important, the thought behind that beautiful design is equally, if not more, important as well. But I do love how you were playing with just large type, really justifying across the whole, poster, going super full bleed with very vibrant imagery. I think all that was really cool and well done. I thought the radar branding was interesting. I would have liked to see kind of the breakdown, not the process, but starting with the logo mark, then showing what your color palette comes out as, then bringing it into other assets and taking it further than just print, right? Business cards are far and in between now. I would even say that your template is also not something that super gets printed a lot anymore. So it's kind of like, where would you bring this radar brand elsewhere? Similarly, what does social look like? What does a billboard look like? Or you said this is a hockey brand identity within a shop. So I would just really make sure that you're utilizing like where the viewers and the consumers of this would go, and really try to navigate that through different media tactics as well, and how your brand is coming to life in all of those places. The machine stops, I wasn't as big of a fan of this in particular. I do like that it is E.M. Forster, and my last name is Forster, so I did like that. No, but from a design perspective, I feel like this is a weaker piece in your book. The other stuff feels a little bit more high-end. The other stuff feels a little bit more put together and professional, and so this feels a little bit more student booky to me. So just something to think about there. Self-editing is always important. Your portfolio is not to show everything you've ever worked on. It is to show your very best stuff. And so for that reason, make sure that only the best stuff is found. You don't want a reviewer accidentally clicking on something and you wishing they had clicked on something else. That's like the worst thing. But I do think there's a lot of great design. You've played with a lot of different styles, which I appreciate as well. But I really love this TOTUS stuff. This women's rugby stuff is awesome. It just feels kind of rad. It just feels different. There's nice palettes going on. The letters are bold. It just feels very unique and different and interesting. And I just like the way it's come together. I do think there's a little bit of pixelation issue happening in the portfolio, so just make sure your things are crispy, sharp. Again, that is just more of it'll make your book look more professional and less student-y. But I really do love how a lot of this is coming together. Your patterning of, the icon mark, the monkey, and things of that nature are really rad. So I do love the experimentation there. Again, would love to see it continue to push onto other things aside from packaging and signage, continue to push the boundaries, but I do think it is really interesting. And then I like that you took kind of a different approach. You went a little bit more luxurious. So you're showing range and the types of design that you're bringing to the table. And I think that's really nice as well. And so I really loved this stuff for sure. I don't know about the background here. I would love to just see these things in a really nice kind of studio environment shoot. You can actually take these things right here, throw them in AI, and get some beautiful, realistic pictures. There's kind of no excuse anymore not to make the best mock-ups ever. There is a lot out there available to you, and you can really adjust the lighting and the nuance, and things will really look 3D with the refractions coming off of the glass, and then you'll see the really nice light hits and highlights. And so all of those things are very doable now. So throw your artwork in that AI engine, let it do its thing, and see where you get. Highly recommend there. GPT is pretty good with that. So you could start there. Nano Banana, also a really good other one that is a little bit better at editing things. So if you're like, I don't quite like what it's doing, and then you can kind of tell it and it'll do its thing. But use that technology to your advantage. But again, love that work as well. And so the thing I'm most excited about is that you got a lot of skill. And so now I just want you to continue to push. You're like you're brimming. You're like at this moment of like, there's all this built up skill set. I just want that to kind of explode all over all sorts of different projects. And so I do suggest probably doing 1 or 2 campaigns that really narrow in on a unique insight and then blow that out into a full campaign. There are lots of other creative briefs on social that you can find, as well as just the general internet. Or you could just go to your local store, pick something off the wall and say, I'm going to make an ad campaign for that. But I think that will be really helpful, especially if you have aspirations to be an art director. That's kind of a place you want to play. But I also know that you're interested in sports. So let's get to your questions. You said, if I want to go into more athletic style of branding, do I need more sports projects in my portfolio, or is it good to have a selection, as I want to do more studio agency work first? Great question. If you want to do more studio agency work first, make your portfolio, make the range broader. If all of your projects are sports and then that agency doesn't have sports, say they have a toothpaste brand, right? They may not hire you because it's kind of a book that only has one thing and shows that you can do one thing. You're going to want to show that range. I've had people who have done this before. I worked on Samsung for a while. And even though it was semi in the tech space, I got a portfolio that was all like car advertising, all automobile. And I looked at it and said, I just don't know, like, if they can strategically think about other industries and, dabble in different styles and design and different types of tactics aside from the automobile industry. And so that was kind of a turnoff of that book. You definitely want to see range in someone's portfolio. Typically, that's how it kind of goes. You start off a little broader, and then as you gain experience in the industry and maybe have a little bit more flexibility and you want to get more niche, that's when you can start catering your portfolio to one specific thing, like sports, and then go for those jobs at, I think you said Adidas. Adidas? You know how to say it better than me. I always say Adidas over here, and I know that is the incorrect way to say it. But yeah, as you want to go into those opportunities, it is great to cater your portfolio to that particular thing, which could mean you're just doing some projects on the side. You're making posters, you're doing design work. Maybe you even do some spec work for Adidas to show that you can make some cool stuff. But yes, for now, I would work on range across industry and brand to kind of broaden the aperture of what jobs that you're up for. You said, do I need to minimize my development of my projects, or is it? But yes, I don't think you need to have much process stuff in there unless the process is, again, groundbreaking. It sometimes just messes up the work. You can, at the very end, if you wanted to, of your projects, have a little link that essentially is like, click to this page for the process. And if people want to dig deeper, they can. Just don't make it like a focal point. You said, does my identity need to be more prominent across my pages, or will it distract from my work? Well, when you make your website, you'll have that nav bar. You'll have some elements that are kind of ever or not ever changing. You'll have consistency in font weights and color and things of that nature. And so that will probably do most of the heavy lifting for you. You don't need to bring your like waves and all this type of stuff into each project category. Each page's case or set of work should feel unique to that brand. But once you make your own personal website, it'll kind of do a lot of that for you. So that's all I got to say. I think you're in a really good spot. And I think now it's just continuing to kind of put your foot on the gas and continue to kind of move forward, which I know you will do. So cool. Appreciate you. Thanks. Bye.